Here we are, we're back again. This is DJ Sha'E with an E, Faith Over Fear, and I am certainly delighted. I have a superstar here with me today, a man of many words. I'm here today with Kamal Speaks, born and raised in the city that never sleeps. You thought I was going to give you these bars, and I'm just going to read it off here. He has a brilliant mind, outstanding delivery. He's a truth speaker, gifted and talented poet, featured in some of the liveliest places, some of ATL city life, and some of the vibiest places in town. He brings us poetry versus R&B, author of several mind-stimulating spoken word projects. If you've ever been blessed to be in his audience, you will hear a bunch of wows and oohs and ahs as he spits his lyrical gifts. And today, I'm really excited to have you in the place. Also, here, things that I've been able to introduce you with. How are you today?
I'm excellent. I'm excellent. To be honest with you, I've only been doing poetry 3 years, and I came on the scene strong. And it's been a lot of. I don't want to call it hate. I'm gonna call it confused emotions because of my trajectory, and a lot of people just don't like it. I'm not even gonna say they don't like it. They love it, but they just don't know how to show their emotions. So I'm very distant from any poetry community.
Wow, that's so deep. And this is really to get to know the man, but you just said a mouthful there. With that 3 years, like, you are a gem. And the way that you deliver your truth and spoken word, I would have thought the questions that I'm going to ask you kind of talks about how you came up with this. So let's get right into it. What would you give me some gems on how you got started? And when did you know you had something special brewing inside, a voice to be heard globally? And what was the moment in time, even if it was from your childhood or youth, that in some ways suggests that you will be who you are today as an adult, powerful speaker?
Well, I've been a powerful speaker since I was a child, not in poetry, but I always had a voice that stood out, and my voice couldn't easily be wavered. Like, I was never like what you would call the typical follower today, even though I have been a follower and I'm still a follower. But I follow what my heart and my my inner spirit tells me to, and I stand firm on whatever I'm following or leading. Since I was a child, I always had a special gift. I was always very funny. I can make crowds laugh and everything like that. But when it comes to poetry, this started 3 years ago. I was a multi-millionaire, lost everything, like overnight lost everything. Was sleeping in my van, facing like 20 years in jail, and for trumped up charges, fake charges. And I was sitting there with nobody calls you when you don't have no money no more. So the phone wasn't ringing. I'm in the van. I didn't have the desire to look at TV. So I wouldn't look at TV on my phone or none of that. And I was just left with myself. And once my thoughts came in, they poured into me, I was forced to talk to myself. A lot of us, they tell you you're crazy if you talk to yourself, which is absolutely, that's insane if you believe that. And I was forced to talk to myself, and then I was forced to respond. And next thing you know, I start to learn myself. Then I start to see so many other things. And I was like, I got to let my people know this. And then in the back of my mind, it was like, write a poem. So I wrote a poem. And when I wrote that poem, I loved it so much. I said, I got to make a video. And I went and made a video for it. And I just knew I was going to do that. After that poem and that video, I just said, this is what I'm going to do. And I was about 42 at the time. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I stopped everything, like, because I was still like trying to hold on to a past life, and I was selling Kirby's. So that's how I got rich. Well, that's how I made the paper fiat. Rich is with the inside.
That's right.
So that made the paper fiat. And once I made the paper fiat and went and lost it, I was still in that field trying to make it, and that wasn't my purpose. So I stopped that, and I just did nothing but poetry. Like when I first had my poems, I would spend money, what people would call money, the paper fiat, to make videos. And then I would go to the park and say my poems for free. I would walk up to anybody. I would go, because I was in Greensboro, it wasn't a big town. I would just go to the, say my poems. And then finally, after like a month, I started allowing people to give me tips. But then at that same time, about, I say a month and a half later, a month and a half, then 2 to 3 weeks later, I had got some merch. So I would just sell my merch and do my poetry. There was no shows. So I'm doing that every day. And then I just moved to Atlanta, and everything just took off. I moved to Atlanta for the purpose of my poetry.
Right, right. Wow. I mean, when I reached out to have this conversation with you, right? It's something about what we can perceive. So I just saw you as, this is what your story is. And when I tell you that I do this faith over fear conversations with Sha'E based on almost everything that you said, but when you got when nothing else mattered, and now all you do is post, that's all I do, this is what I do. And so you're going to see that wow, I could get emotional because I didn't expect this. But you're saying so many things, not only that I need to hear, but that so many people need to hear. Maybe you need to hear yourself saying this back. So my next question for you is, what other things have you tried to do, but your voice kept calling you? It was crystal clear that this is the path you're led on, and this is what you need to do. You need to work this path from inside out, and this is it. Can you take me there of what other things you tried to do before you locked in over here?
You mean before I locked in? Nah, nothing. Like, one thing I've been grateful for is anything I put my mind to was never a try. It was always a success. So whatever I did, I did. What I tried to do, you could say, is rekindle that feeling from selling the Kirby's when I had the passion for it. And that didn't work. And poetry came. Once poetry came, I did nothing else. Now, it's been 2 times where I went and helped a friend out in Kirby, and that's just because I was helping them, but they always knew I wasn't staying there for no extensive amount of time, and because my poetry was more important than everything.
Wow. Okay. Next question. I read something that you wrote. It said, when you decide that going back is not an option, you'll find ways to grow into the person that you were created to be. Right? Burn the bridges in your life that caused you to settle for less. How long did it take you to commit to your vision? Was there a magic number, and how long you decided to say, and it sounds like 3 years, it sounds like maybe 2 years, but is there like a magic number? What was that for you? What did that look like before you just allowed this gift to make a way for you?
No, it was the first poem.
You said that. There was no going back.
Yeah, I wasn't going back.
What do you remember what the first poem was?
Yeah, you want me to say it?
I do.
It's called Black Lives Don't Matter. Who represents me? Is it a reality? Is it justice for all or justice for me? Am I wrong because I don't trust my lawyer who had lunch with the district attorney, the same system that's trying to burn me? My situation, they laugh and joke, and the pins I beat on my chest, brag and boast. It's funny how that slave ship stay afloat. And I'm not talking about whips and chains. It's more of a mental thing. White supremacy screaming, we ain't to blame, that y'all killing yourselves. But your own social media and everything else, including our wealth, controlled us with subliminal messages, made us dumb with smartphone, internet, and text messages. It's the day of the beast. 9/11 tricked us, made us think our enemies was from the Middle East, when in fact they're from all over. I'm calling for every black man to be a soldier. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, or Jehovah, because they got to witness this curse being uplifted. And this land built on lies, got us screaming about our lives and how they matter. Cycles must be broken, traditions must be shattered in this so-called country of the brave. But it's funny, how's the whole world controlled by a man that originates from a cave? Got us shocked and amazed at stuff that happens every day. I know about 50 George Floyds from around my way. And we marching for the police to go to jail, for real? We should be protesting for economical change. Stop worshiping diabolical things like whips, chips, sex and a chick. Unity is power. When we together, that's rich. It's funny, I never seen a slave ship. Cause we own this land. So how can you ever own this man? Feet the same color as sand, hair like wool. We make the rules. We allowed ourselves to be captured. But when we awaken, that will be the rapture. If you don't believe me, check the credentials. Black lives don't matter. They're essential.
It's something about when you speak, that Kamal speaks. I'm talking about the hairs on my arms and the hairs is, woo! That matters. That voice matters. That matters. Man, they're so powerful. My next question, what do you say to 7-year-old, 7-year young? What do you say to 7-year young Kamal?
I wouldn't want to say nothing to him.
Why?
I don't want the trajectory.
You want him to have to go through everything that
I've had that conversation. That question asked to me before. And, you know, it's things I wish I would have did different with my daughters. You know, I raised my daughters with me. I had the money. I try to buy them, just buy them stuff and not spend enough time. But what if Kamal, if I told 7-year-old Kamal, he did everything proper? I think my voice wouldn't be as strong because I would never go through the pain that I need to go through to give what people need. I don't want to, you know, that's kind of tricky. I don't want to tamper with anything.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that, what do you speak into Kamal 30 years from now?
I think I can't speak into Kamal 30 years from now. I can speak into society 30 years from now, because the words that's coming from me, hopefully, I evolve. Like I talked to a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, a young lady named Deja, and she I said, "What do you like to do?" She says, "I love to learn," and that I have the same thing in common. I love to learn. So when you learn, you grow, you evolve. So if I say something to him now, he probably look at it differently. Okay, cool, but it's this, that, and the third added on to it. So I like to deal with, you know, too much of us deal with the past.
Right.
And the future.
The right now.
The present.
The right now.
Let the past stop us from having a good future because we're not focused on the present.
I tell you why I asked you that question too, is because when I look back, you know, I hear that question. That is a cliche, like a typical question. And you're the first person that I've ever asked that question to on my conversations. But I had a conversation with my son the other day, and that was kind of what we were talking about. And that inspired me to ask you that. And when I think back to 15-year-old Shannon, right, I had my son when I was 16 years old. So I was a teen mom. And so when we kind of talked about, you know, what do you say? I so respect what you're saying, and it makes sense. Like, I wouldn't really tell, you know, my younger version anything, because then I wouldn't be for as far along as I am growth wise, and what I know, what I've experienced, to be the strong person to be able to deliver in this now moment. Right then, I would say the things that we do today aren't necessarily for what we're doing today. The things that I'm doing in this now moment aren't necessarily for this now moment, but it's going to be a growth for me. It's going to be definitely a part of my growth because this is what I'm spending my time doing. So you can only get better when you're spending time. So I think that that's important. But I definitely like the spin on that question. I not really spin. I like the way you looked at that question because it's worth considering. You know, why tell myself anything? Let me learn along the way. But there has to be something that you know that you can look back and say, you know what? So it don't even have to be something to say, okay, to my 17-year-old self, don't do that or do that this way. You know what? I'm happy that you did this, or I'm proud of you for doing this or being that way too.
If I was to tell my 25-year-old self, my 25-year-old self would look at me crazy right now today, like, you stupid, you bugging. I'm gonna turn out like this. He's a nutcase.
But what they call you hypocrite?
Yeah, if I told my 25-year-old self money is fake, my 20-year-old self would curse me out. And he'd be like, "Yeah, what? Well, I'm in the future."
Right.
If I told him stuff like, "Hey, you only need one woman in your life,"
right.
He's a sucker.
Look, you was developing into a king. And so now that's what I'm saying. In your now time, when you look back and you say, you know what, I would have tried to tell you, but you wasn't going. You was gonna think I wasn't the cool kid. You was gonna think we didn't fit into to that mold that we was really being in. That really
It wasn't
wasn't
even the 5-year-old trying to be the cool kid. It's just when I'm stuck on something, I'm stuck. I know me,
right.
And especially me back looked at me like crazy, and I wouldn't have accepted it. When see, I do stuff because I believe it's right. Like when I was a gangster, I was a gangster.
You was all in.
Yeah, all in, and I believed it was right. See, that's the difference. I believed in my mind that this is right and this is what I'm going to do. I don't care what y'all do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
See, I think too, growing up, like I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. You might know Eastern Pennsylvania. But all in all and everything, I always knew, and I don't know if it comes from like I was raised with my grandparents, right? So I don't know if it goes back to I knew what that looked like. I knew what foundation and order and you know, pleasantry. I knew what those things looked like. So when I was, you know, thinking that I knew it all and all that, I knew that there was something else. So deep in me, I always knew there was something else, and that I could speak those things to myself when nobody else was listening, right? Because like you said, it's not being the cool kid, but with the little town I came from, you know, you just wanted to be respected or that kind of stuff. That none of that stuff really matters anyway. When I think about finding your purpose or living your dreams, I have a quick question for you, real quick. Overnight success or fulfilled journey along the way?
Nothing's an overnight success. Even how quickly, you know, and it's not quickly because a lot of people look at stories, you know, we're in a snippet lifetime right now. Everything is microwavable. If it doesn't happen in 3 minutes, it can't happen. 3 years, they think it's overnight because they only met you for 2 months of the 3 years. It's still not over. I'm still not where I'm projected to go. It seems fast, you know, but when you're living it 24/7, this is what you're doing 24/7, ups and downs. It's for overnight to me. I can't speak on anybody else. You got a person who wrote a poem, fumble the next day, they're international and everything.
Right.
But I haven't experienced that, and nothing I've been successful at, and I've been successful at a lot of things. So it's never overnight. It's different stages. Like the first stage that I went to was to write the poem. I had to deliver the poem.
Right.
Then I had to learn how to deliver the poem better.
Right.
Then I had to learn how to be more vulnerable and not just write about things I saw, but incorporate me in the poem. when people hear my pain is relatable to a lot of people.
That's right.
Then I have everything in about pain. I got to write some joyous stuff.
That's right.
You know, it's not an overnight step.
Right.
It's overnight when you make a decision. That's
right.
forget
When you make the decision to do it, to begin the process.
When you make a decision and you truly make a decision, it happens like that.
And then it's happening. And now you're in it. So now that is now it happened like that, and now I'm in it. What else do I get from it? How else do I drive this vehicle? Right? Because now I'm in it. I'm doing that very thing, right? So and this is all I do now. Now all I do is poetry. Now all I do is speak spoken word. Now everything I do is based on my voice and my words, and now things are coming to you. You just said you did a TV show. You know, you've been nominated for some pretty cool accolades, and you've been in rooms where people have poured into you. You've been in the rooms where you've poured into people. So all those things came from that journey along the way. And that journey along the way started that day you wrote that first poem. As an artist and brilliant mind, what is the strangest thing you know to be true about the art of poetry?
Well, let me just take it deeper than the art of poetry. It's a time we're in right now. Like, I come from a different era, and poetry, people don't hold you accountable anymore. And the better you are, then they hold you accountable. Like me performing in these places, and you know, art is subjective, they say, those who like it, but I can see crowds not being honest with people with their art and cheering them on. And then I hear them afterwards say he sucked or she sucked. But why would you do that? Why would you cheer that person on? That's the coolest thing you could ever do. So now that person, they think they're great, you know, and continue to be terrible instead of helping them become great by being honest. Art itself, life itself is right now is so dishonest. I wrote a poem talking about, you know, all this mess about I should call a woman a man, or a man a woman if they choose to be called that, right? I wrote a poem addressing that, how they put it in the schools and everything. You know, they told me take it down. My agents who were selling the movie and everything. You know, I'm telling other poets I can hear the fear in their voice. So the art is not as pure as it's supposed to be or once was. You know, at one point in time, poetry, music, you know, songs, even rap was messages for the people. You know, my whole thing is, and in my poem, I don't say I have a problem with you because you're gay. No, I say, don't push that in the schools. Don't try to make me change my pronouns. You know,
right. Or don't be offended that I'm proud to be straight, because like you, I love people. I'm a lover of people. So that's not even the conversation to have.
You know, it's no more freedom of speech. But you know, people are so afraid to say what's on their hearts. They're so afraid to go against the majority. We're in a dishonest stage in life. I mean, in all facets. That's why in our community, in the Black community, well, not Black, we're melanin, but in our community, we live such a lie that our women don't understand that they need a man. Our men don't understand how to be men. They remain males. Because this lie they taught us, we are feeding on it heavy. And we're too afraid to let the lie go.
Right. And because you don't want to offend. You don't want to offend. I think now people are in this world of being offended. Like I was telling my daughter who's a new mom, like, people don't want to offend people so bad. Like if somebody was smoking a cigarette in front of a newborn baby, it would be like, don't smoke the cigarette in front of the newborn baby. I might not say nothing because I don't want to offend you, but meanwhile, I'll be offended if you're smoking a cigarette in front of the newborn baby.
Yeah, the cowards like that. I went to get me a sandwich, right? So the line was kind of funny, and I didn't know if everybody was for the certain line. So I said, "Excuse me, is everybody on this line?" And the guy said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, thank you." He said, he turned back and said, "Man, I hope I didn't offend you, but I'm like, no, you would have offended me."
You answered my question.
No, you did everything that was the proper way.
Man,
you understand?
And I think is that more so. And let me just say, nobody was smoking a cigarette in front of a newborn baby, but that was just the analogy that I came up with. But it is almost non-popular to have your own opinion, because your opinion now has to be able to make everybody happy, and really you can only grow from doing the things that make you keep you true to yourself and in your pursuit of happiness. How do we connect with you?
Kamal Speaks, Kamal Speaks. Number one on all platforms, with the number one on all platforms. Kamal Speaks with the number one on all platforms. You can Google me. I'm Google friendly. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere.
Well, I tell you what, I'm grateful. Your future is bright, and I know that we'll continue to see you rise up. Keep using your voice. You're a gem. I certainly appreciate you for stopping by Faith Over Fear Conversations with Sha'E, as I'm in the beginning of my journey as well, but I'm on my journey. I definitely learned more about you today, and so I'm going to end it in this because it's June, and a lot of people are beginning to relish in Juneteenth and get education about what it truly means. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
It's funny, I never seen a slave ship. Cause we own this land. So how can you ever own this man? Feet the same color as sand, hair like wool. We make the rules. We allowed ourselves to be captured. But when we awaken, that will be the rapture. If you don't believe me, check the credentials. Black lives don't matter. They're essential.
Excuse me, miss. Can I be the first to say that dress looks nice, and I like the way you proportion your color assortment, the collaboration between your hair and nails, if all else fails, you got me with the smell.
But I got a man.
But here's the disclaimer, not the disclaimer, but sometimes a compliment is just a compliment and not a failed attempt. See, what many fail to understand is the difference between an F-boy and a grown man. Every hello and excuse me is not a word roofie. I'm not here to get you high off my words. It's just that your dress deserves a couple of words with nothing in exchange. I know. It seems strange, but chivalry is not dead. It's on life support on trial at court by feminists, rappers, R&B, forget it, the whole industry of evil energy portraying men as the enemy. Now we're all held accountable for the men that mounted you and didn't return your phone call. So in your mind, no man can behave because of the choices you made. So that leads me to believe it's your insecurities that make you think me holding this door is something more. And you have the audacity to assume that you're my type. Like forget my wife, forget my life, my hello turned into a like, but this ain't Instagram. And that picture you posted ain't every man. But for the ones that are, show them that you a star. Teach them who they truly are. And don't assume the worst. Don't be that white lady clutching her purse, because it hurts to be labeled unable to feel compassion, emotion, genius, to be labeled because of my penis. But that's what you say when you take my hello the wrong way.